people would be like, oh my God, Mallrats, one of my favorites. I'm like, you're talking about the film Mallrats, right? Like
the one that Kevin Smith apologized for?
Hello and welcome to another edition of GalaxyCon Live, where we are bringing the convention experience directly to you. Today we head to the food court, but not the cookie stand, which is an independent. Never mind. Today we are chatting with some of your favorite characters from Kevin Smith's Mallrats. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and meet our guest. First, you know him as T.S. Quint. Please help me welcome Jeremy London. How are we doing today, man?
I'm good. What did I win?
Well, you won Renee.
Oh, there we go. Good. I'm good.
So good. So you're in Mississippi right now.
I am.
How's that life treating you?
Oh, I love it, man. I left Los Angeles about 7 years ago and haven't looked back. It's just glorious here. Have a beautiful, beautiful life. Dogs on my over my shoulder. It's incredible. I love it here.
Do you miss the LA at all?
Not even one bit. not even like a fraction of a bit. There's no reason to be there anymore. It's too expensive. I miss my son lives in Palm Springs, so I miss him, of course, but I don't miss Los Angeles by any means. And just the whole California experience. I came from the South, and I belong in the South. It's nice to be back amongst real people.
Absolutely.
That whole Los Angeles scene never felt right to me anyway. I just,
I hear you. I'm a Florida guy, so I hear you. Absolutely. Our next guest, please help me welcome the most feared security guard in the business. Please help me welcome, you know him as LaFours, Sven-Ole Thorsen.
Yeah. The crowd goes wild. Hey, Sven.
Sven, how are you doing, sir?
Fantastic. So happy to be here with you, Milo, with Jeremy, with the whole gang.
When was the last time that you guys actually saw each other and were able to chat?
Probably
1995.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Wow. Well, I'm honored to be able to have you both here and be able to chat.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's what, 26 years? 26 years?
Yeah.
How long has it been?
Yeah, 26 years. No, 2000.
Good.
Yeah, 26 years.
That's so weird. I'm almost 50 years old now. I was a kid when we shot this movie, and it just keeps getting more popular and more popular. It's the strangest thing. It took like 10 years for anybody to even know that I was in that movie. Wasn't that weird for you too, Sven?
Very weird. I've did a lot of conventions, and one was in Hollywood I did a couple of years ago. And people have been traveling all over the world just to come and have LaFours sign a poster or photo. It was so abstract. I mean, I've done 160 pictures, big pictures, Conan the Barbarian, Gladiator, Running Man, Lethal Weapon. But the most popular picture I ever did was Mallrats.
Isn't that so wild? Isn't it? It truly is amazing that he has these legs.
I don't say one word in Mallrats. Just making faces and stuff. But
you just get to be a big Viking, man. It was just, how can you forget LaFours?
No, I mean, one of the most memorable characters, like you said, without even saying a word in the entire movie.
Yeah, it's just a perfect piece of the puzzle. The whole thing is just, I think, one element missing wouldn't have been the same,
Absolutely.
And also working with Jason Lee, with Sharon Dorothy, with Ben Affleck, and had long conversations with Kevin Smith, the director, who did such a job. He was so relaxed on the whole movie, made jokes, and the whole atmosphere in the movie was just like a big family. I had great memories from Minnesota. It was very cold there.
Man.
And this big mall, I think it's called, what's it called? The Prairie something?
Was it Grand Prairie or something?
Eden
Prairie.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. And Sven, I know our next guest is very excited to talk to you. Our final suitor goes to Rutgers, where he majors in the fine arts.
Yes.
Mythology. A nice welcome for Gil Hicks. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian O'Halloran.
What's up? Oh my God, it's so good to be here. It's so funny. You were just saying, when was the last time you spoke to each other? I never spoke to Sven ever the entire time.
No,
Literally would be the first time. So I'm super geeked about this. But yeah, it's weird how this movie got legs years later that people would be like, oh my God, Mallrats, one of my favorites. I'm like, you're talking about the film Mallrats, right? Like
the one that Kevin Smith apologized for. That
the one that he was like immediately issuing refunds for. But yeah, it's great. I had fun on that set. It was my first Hollywood movie, my second movie ever, and I was just overwhelmed with the whole thing to begin with. And Sven is correct when he says that it was a really relaxed, chill kind of atmosphere. But that's every Kevin Smith film set is a chill, relaxed atmosphere. We're not making blockbuster Marvel superhero kind of special effect movie. It's simply usually two dudes or two chicks, dick and fart jokes, pop culture references. Boom, we got a movie.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't Citizen Kane, but man, I'll tell you, it's people sure love this movie.
Could be.
You know?
I forever, still to this day, get when are we getting Mallrats 2? So
Right? Every time somebody sees me.
There's so many great quotes from this movie that people still use today. I am people. I am those people. But so did you ever see this movie in 95, even 5 years later in 2000, or even 10 years later in 2005, when I started to pick up steam, as it being a cult classic and still being talked about this day?
I know that I thought it was going to be a blockbuster just based on the how well the premiere went, and then I took my dad to see it in a theater in Los Angeles, and there were about 6 people in the theater, and at least 3 of them left during the movie. And so the reality for me got, it was kind of, shockingly crushing at first, but I think that I'm grateful for that now, because it's quite the phenomenon, and being able to get back with these wonderful gentlemen all these years later, and know that it's still important to people. I think the most important thing to me, I just did a convention up in Cincinnati, and super young people love this movie. Like really young, teenagers and super young people are starting to love this movie just as much as, the people that were around back whenever that actually liked it whenever it came out, which was
right.
Not a lot of people. But
it's really weird with Kevin Smith movies, because he puts a certain industry in his movie, and then years later they die. Video stores died, malls dying by the minute. Who knows what's next? Convenience stores? No.
Politicians. Put politicians. Kevin,
Nice.
Put politicians in your movie.
A political thriller next.
Let's do it.
Well, he did. He did Red State.
You did.
That was a great movie, man.
Absolutely.
Kevin sees this. Kevin, Red State, killer movie, man.
Sven, did you see this as just a job, or, was this something you were looking forward to? I mean, not knowing how popular it was going to be years later.
No, I had the pleasure 2 years earlier to work for one of the producers, Jim Jacks, who died recently, but he talked about this movie and promised me and a colleague of mine, Bobby Pizza, then when he was start shooting this movie Mallrats, we should both be in it. And then in '95, I heard about they were shooting the movie, and I was not in it, so I called Jim Jacks up and said, I thought you're a man of your words. Where's my job?
I would have been scared of you. I'd have said, yes, sir.
He said, come to Minnesota and we're going to fix it. So my friend Bobby Pizza, who was the stunt coordinator also, he was supposed to play the force. So that became my job. And also Jim Jack said, but you deserve it, because as far as I recall, you used to be the strongest man in the world. And I said, you bet, I'm the man for the job.
And you said
so
used
that
to
was the way. Yeah, when I was 40 years old, I did the world record for seniors. I benched 530 pounds in bench press.
That's amazing.
That's like everybody in this chat combined.
That's as much as I've ever bench pressed put together, like a cumulative, like of all the bench pressing I've ever done, added up. That's how much I've bench pressed.
Now, Jeremy and
Also,
Sven.
go ahead.
Please listen.
I was going to say, were you familiar with Clerks prior to? Did you see Clerks prior to auditioning or being cast?
I did, and I loved it. I thought it was great. I think that young egotistical me, thinking I knew everything back then, didn't know. You know, I was like, well, this is like a little black and white. I think this Mallrats thing is going to be like. I just didn't, you know, in my mind, know if how it was going to translate or whatever. And you know, from the get go, he just had a sort of a command of what he knew it was going to take to get the end result he needed. That was just sort of just above and beyond what most beginning filmmakers should be allowed to do. Like, his insight was extraordinary. To be able to see the talent in Jason Lee, to be able to put together the people that he put together that fit these roles. I mean, seriously, it was just a second movie, and he had Ben Affleck in his movie, and I mean, you know, and Brian came in and crushed it for us. You know, all of the elements were incredible. The foresight to understand the end result and get the end result was, you know, just.
I think a lot of that too was Don Phillips, the other producer, who brought in a lot of people from Dazed and Confused.
Yeah, the casting director.
Yeah, it was a really big. That was a real good. I mean, he had a great eye for early '90s young talent to kind of get that new feeling of what, you know, the Brat Pack kind of feel of movies.
Don Phillips was in a bar with my brother in Austin, Texas, whenever a girl introduced her boyfriend to them, and it was Matthew McConaughey. I mean, and then so Don Phillips plucked McConaughey out of Austin, Texas, and said, "This guy, there's something special to this guy." So you're absolutely right, Brian.
Yeah, so it was great to see
Sean Penn, right? Yeah.
I recall I had the pleasure of meeting Stan Lee, who played a part in the picture. Yeah. And the story goes that when Kevin Smith was writing the script, he talked to Jim Jacks, asked him who should play that part. You know, the guy that gives our hero advice about how to make love and how to get married, staying married and stuff, and say he's a Stan Lee type. And then Jim Jack would say, but I know Stan Lee. I had lunch with him once a week. So why don't we hire, you know, Stan Lee?
Stan Lee.
That's why he became his own character in Mallrats. And then
I was very much like TS. I had no idea who Stan Lee was. Truly.
No, but I did. Spider-Man, he created Spider-Man. He's a great artist.
Told me all of that. Yeah, once they told me all that, of course I knew who he was, but it wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, these people, that was his first. What was that?
That was his first speaking role. Stan Lee's first speaking role.
And his favorite. It was his favorite role.
Yeah. Yeah, the job he got in Mallrats. Yeah.
And then look what it started.
And it was great that they put it in the Marvel Cinematic Universe when there's the scene where he's on the bus reading the script of Mallrats when the Doctor Strange and them hit the bus. Oh, it's just so funny. Or I forget what the exact.
It transcends like what any of us ever thought we were involved or going to be connected to, I think. And that was sort of the magic link, I think, that, you know, we all knew there were important, you know, there were really amazing things with this movie that we didn't understand at the time, you know. But I certainly am glad to have been in his orbit and to have been something that meant so much to him and been a part of something that meant so much to him. You know, it's very cool.
So I have to ask Jeremy, besides where Jaws pops out of the water, what would be the ideal place to get engaged or get married for you?
Oh my goodness. Man, for somebody that hasn't been very good at marriage, this is a bad question for me. How about the double loop-de-loop at any other park, and just right when you get to the top, ask, if she'll marry you, and then when you get to the next one, give her the ring.
That's perfect. I mean, it's a ring situation when you think.
That's what I would do, metaphorically.
Right. So, you guys ready for some fan questions?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Sure.
All right. So our first question comes from Brian. If there was I don't think that's Brian. If there was a sequel to Mallrats, what could you see your characters doing now?
Well, I'll let Brian take it first anyway.
Oh, Gil Hicks probably maybe is part of some sort of political party, still trying to pick up ladies and take them to the cheese house.
Does he still have the mullet?
Perhaps. Does he still sport the mullet? I think the mullets are making it back, so I'm sure he would. It was funny because there was a couple of years ago where Kevin was actually in the process of doing a Mallrats too. And when he told me this, I started to grow my hair out to be like, oh my God, this will be hilarious. Gil Hicks still rocking the mullet. And it went to like this really ratty kind of, okay, this is Eastern European 20 years behind kind of fashion look. I got to get out of this. And so I was like, once he said, no, we're not going to do Mallrats yet. We're going to do Clerks 3. I was like, okay, great. Immediately I got a haircut. But yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see where Gil Hicks would be. I think he would still think he's suave when he's not. I think that's the angle to play.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Jeremy, where's TS at now?
I think TS probably has some kids, probably trying to get them off to college. Maybe a sort of decent mid-level job somewhere, and still with Brandy Spinning, 100%.
Yeah. Maybe
Making
the Mallrats are
making Rooker still than your father.
Yes, hating my father-in-law.
So maybe your kids are the Mallrats.
Maybe.
Sven, is LaForce still at the mall?
Yeah, sure, the Force is the man. He's the most dangerous god in the world. So now he reinvented himself. So he's coming back, still strong, but on a skateboard.
Nice. Sven comes in doing some kick flips.
That's yeah. Like Brody,
Yeah.
that he made nice with Brody, and Brody taught him how to do some tricks.
Yes.
It's like I chase the kid and still be fast. Instead of running out of breath, I have my skateboard.
That would be great. Still one of my biggest pet peeves with that whole movie was that Jason Lee, who's one of the greatest skateboarders ever, wouldn't skate in the mall. I'm like, you have a mall.
No, he was contractually against. They made him sign you can't skate in the mall. So for insurance purposes, he didn't break his arm.
We just wanted him to do it so bad.
Well, he did. Once we wrapped, he did take the board and go around the lower level.
Did he? I didn't get to see that, but man, that would have been amazing. We all just wanted to watch him.
All right. Our next question comes from Madison. Is there a dream role you would still would like to be a part of?
Brian, again, please.
Oh, anything in the Star Wars universe. I mean, I'd love to get involved in that at some point. I'm looking at you, Mandalorian. So any of those type of roles, that's still something. As a kid in the 70s, when that movie came out, it just blew my mind. I remember riding home. We lived in the Bronx in New York City, but we drove out to Paramus, New Jersey, to the giant screen out there that had a 70 millimeter theater that showed 70 millimeter prints. So we saw Star Wars on this giant screen out in Paramus. And I remember coming home with my two older brothers. I have two older brothers, one 9 years and one 6 years older than me. And me being in the back of the car going, ha ha, when I have my driver's license, I'm going to have a land speeder. Still waiting for that land speeder, people. Looking at you, Elon. Where's my
Ooh,
Lance?
it's coming, man. It's coming. If Elon has anything to do with it.
Now,
Yeah,
Sven,
so the Star Wars universe, anything in the Star Wars universe,
now Sven, you've been in like over a dozen movies with Arnold. What could the future hold for you if you could pick any sort of role?
Yeah, I mean, they've been talking about, John Milius has been talking about King Conan for years. And that would really be a dream. When we did the first Conan the Barbarian, we spent 17 months in Spain, and we had a ball there. You know, we were 10 stunt guys from Denmark, 10 from Spain, and 10 from America. I played Thorgrim. This was John Milius' favorite character. Years earlier, I had met John in California together with Arnold when he wrote the screenplay, and he asked me for a good Viking name for one of the characters, and I came up with Thorgrim. And a year later, he called me and said, "Come to Spain, bring 10 of your friends, big guys, and you're gonna play Thorgrim." So we came down there. He called our team, the Danish stuntmen, the Animals. So I would love for Conan to come alive again. And Arnold did probably his best job. All the pictures Arnold's been doing, his very best job. He was really the Conan character. He trained very hard for it. And I know the Yamasaki, his sword master. I'm also fifth dan in karate, so I learned how to move. And when he put a sword in his hand in the movie, you believed it. He became Conan. So to be a part of the Conan trilogy, you know, that would be fantastic. Fantastic.
We need another one, man. It's been too long.
Absolutely. Let's put that out into the universe.
Heck yeah,
totally.
man.
Hashtag bring King Conan.
It's like a guaranteed blockbuster too, man. Producers, get on this.
Yeah.
Get on this, producers.
Jeremy, dream
Sir.
role.
Man, I don't even know what it would be specifically. I think that it would definitely have to be a period piece of some kind.
Okay.
You know, I really love Westerns. And kids think I'm Iron Man now for some reason. I don't know why. I get this all the time, man. These little kids come up, like, or if I'm walking through New Orleans, if I've got this one specific leather jacket I wear, every black dude on the street in New Orleans stops me and thinks I'm Iron Man. So I've got that going for me if Downey doesn't work out for some.
Well, I mean, there's Westworld. Are you familiar with Westworld? I mean, it's the closest thing to a Western, you know, that we have going on right now.
Absolutely, man. I'd be all over that. 100%. So definitely a period.
Our next question comes from Brandon, and it was, what is your favorite scene to film?
Well, mine was simple. I'm pretty much on the dais the entire time. So it was just great being on the stage. I think we shot that for 2 days where we had an audience and then it was just us on stage. So it was just great bouncing off Jason Lee. Jason Lee was so hilariously funny in person, in his real personality, that when we got to just bounce stuff back and forth, it was just a lot of fun. So much so that towards the end of production, Kevin had handed me and him the script to Dogma, originally with the roles Bartleby and Loki, which eventually went to the Golden Boys, Ben and Matt, which knocked it out of the park. But it was just fun just shooting, you know, that whole scene. Watching what was being shot was a lot of fun.
That was fun.
Now, you said going back and forth with Jason, was any of that stuff ad-libbed from the movie?
No, that's the one thing about Kevin. Kevin's not a big ad-lib fan.
No, it's very specific, which is, there's a reason, and the timing, everything about it, like he just knows how it's going to be funny, and needs you to get there to that. And that was probably one of the hardest pills for me to swallow at first, but then I just saw the end result. I was like, oh damn, the whole time. I'm an idiot.
That was the best thing about Sven. Sven had his lines down pat.
He did. He
Never-
nailed them. Nailed them. Man, I have to say that I think I've got to just agree with Brian. That was probably the most fun. Those scenes were so fun to shoot in the movie. I mean, of course, we had the scene with Terry with her third nipple. That was an interesting day. That was weird.
So you're saying so you shot the entire stage scene over the course of 2 days?
Yeah,
we did.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Well, that's not unusual, really, for big movies back then. When we shot on film,
right?
Back when movies were movies, it really wasn't there.
Technically, not a lot of action. And when I say us 2 days, meaning us on the stage,
right,
and shooting the audience, but the stuff with like Jay and Silent Bob and all the ancillary stuff that was going around during the game show, those were different days. But specifically, the game show stuff was over a 2 day period. I'm interested to hear what was Sven's favorite day of shooting.
Let's talk about my least favorite days, because I had just heard both my knees on the picture I did called the Bruce Lee life story Dragon.
Oh right. Oh, and then you had to run and chase those guys.
I was playing the demon, and I was supposed to go down in the grave, and the cable broke, and I broke both my knees. So when I did Mallrats, I just had 2 knee surgeries. So every time he asked me to run, I was like, "Oh no, not fun!"
That back alley scene where you're chasing.
And so when I see myself, I'm a quite good athlete, quite good runner. I didn't like to see myself because you see it was hard for me to run. It was terrible. So I hated that. Do I have to run again? So that's what I recall.
How could you not?
Not my best scenes, my worst scenes, I think.
I think the bad day. Listen, man, when in the scene where Joey kicks me in the nuts, she missed the little thing that was supposed to protect my nuts, and she kicked me in the nuts. So I probably remember that scene the most. Because I remember she dropped me, and like every man in the whole like mall went, "Oh!" And then Joey came over and looked over at me while I'm on the ground in the fetal position. She goes, "It's not that bad, Jeremy." And every guy in there went, "Oh yes, it is." And Kevin came over. He's like, "London, take 30, take half," and I go walk that off because she dropped me, man. Ooh. So yeah, I remember the painful days more than anything else.
I would think so. And Sven, thinking back on the movie, that makes sense. While the other security guards are the ones doing the heavy work, lifting Jeremy and Jason, and you're just walking while they're doing all the dirty work. So that makes perfect sense now.
It still worked.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Our next question. Next question comes from Anna or Anna. I don't know. I've seen Frozen, so it's Anna. What is your favorite film?
Wow, like ever?
Yeah, ever.
We'll
do two-parter.
Okay.
Favorite film all time and favorite film in the View Askew universe.
Okay, that's a good one.
Should I go first?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
go.
Please do, Sven.
I was so lucky to work on a big picture by Ridley Scott. It's called Gladiator. I was working on Malta, where I play Tigris. I'm a retired gladiator, and Russell Crowe, Maximus, is supposed to have a fight with me. I worked with 6 tigers. I was there for 10 weeks, and that movie, who I think won 7 Oscars or something, really stays in my mind, because for 7-8 weeks I became that character.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I was dressed up, put in the Colosseum. 5,000 extras was there to applaud, and they didn't know the movie, so they thought I was the hero. So every day for 4 weeks, when they shot the scenes, they applauded me like I was the main character.
Dude, you were born to be a gladiator. Are you kidding me? A couple thousand years ago, that would have been you in there for real.
But that movie is really one of the epics, like Lawrence of Arabia, or like those big movies from the old days. So Gladiators probably. I also won 2 stunt Oscars for that movie: Best Fight and Best Work with Animals. So
Nice.
Gladiator is definitely my favorite picture of all time. Worked with Oliver Reed, who died during the shoot, and have a fun story about Oliver Reed because they all talked about Oliver Reed had a parakeet tattooed on his penis. On his one side of his penis was a tattooed parakeet. And one day I was in the bathroom with him. We were both taking a leak. I asked him, "Is it true you have a parakeet tattooed on your penis?" And he said, "Yes," and he showed me.
And it was real. He really had it on his. He really had a tattoo on his dick. Oh my god! Ouch!
Let's turn a left turn.
Yes, dude, man. The left freaking turn.
Gladiator was really my favorite picture.
That is
Not because
totally
of
putting
the story.
Yeah, I don't have that good.
A different spin on flipping the bird to someone. All right. Favorite movie for me of all time? That's a tough question. I usually break it down by genre and stuff, but some people will say like Shawshank Redemption. I'm a big fan of war movies, so Patton is one. I would say one of my favorite movies. Favorite Kevin Smith movie. That's a tough one. I'm a big fan of Dogma. Being a lapsed Catholic myself, I kind of had the same kind of questions that he put forth in his script, and it got got such publicity from the Catholic League, which was I think one person at the time, to try to protest the movie, which was kind of weird. So that would be my favorite View Askew film.
Wow, you guys are gonna man. I honestly, I love so many different movies for different reasons that it's just so it's so hard for me to just name one. I mean, I'm gonna stick with Mallrats for the Kevin Smith one, but gosh, there's so many. The Last Samurai actually like affected me like viscerally at a time in my life whenever I was really going through some stuff, and it helped me get some like just mental power that I needed at the time. And so, I never thought I would say a Tom Cruise movie, but goodness, that The Last Samurai was probably is at the top of my list. So I'll go with that. Citizen Kane and Last Samurai are both right there.
All right. Our next question we have up here is coming from Andrew. And how did you all first get into acting?
Brian?
I got into acting probably because of the lack of any other skill in my life. I'd done it as a kid in middle school. I'm the youngest of 3 sons in an Irish Catholic family, so I guess I turned my acting up into acting, focus that energy instead of annoying my mother and embarrassing my family, put you on stage and we can disown you because you're a character. So that's that. And then when I went into high school, I didn't really do any of the high school plays until I got into senior year. But what got me into it again was actually my circle of role playing, like D&D kind of role playing circle. I was always the guy like acting the scenes out while we were role playing. And I just focused it from that and went into community college and took all the theater that I could. And from there, years later, I started acting in community theater. And then Kevin had hold auditions at the First Avenue Playhouse in Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey, which still operates to this day. And the owner of the theater called me up a month beforehand saying, "Hey, Brian, these guys are making a film. They're auditioning next month. You should come down. You're the age range of what they're looking for." This is before the internet, before everybody had cell phones. Month goes by, totally forgot about it. The auditions were like a Sunday night and a Monday night. Monday morning, the guy calls the house again, and he's like, "Brian, where were you? You're coming." Like, "Oh my God, I totally forgot. Is that last night?" He goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "It's again tonight, right?" "Yep." Got in there, auditioned. Kevin liked what I did, and the rest is history.
So you almost missed it.
Almost missed it. Thank God for Joe Bagnall of the First Avenue Playhouse, also known as the guy who stands in front of the cat in the original Clerks as the cat does its business.
Jeremy, how did you get into acting?
You know, the universe is so weird the way it works. I mean, I literally met I used to wait tables in this Holiday Inn in like DeSoto, Texas, and this beautiful older woman that would come in. I mean, I say older, I was a teenager at the time, so she was probably 40, but you know what I mean? She seemed much older because I was a child, but she was gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. And I finally got the courage to talk to her one day, and I said, "You know, you're really beautiful. Are you an actress?" Because she had that look like she was famous or something. She was like, "No, but I do some acting with this guy in Dallas named David Payne, and you know, he's got acting classes." And I was like, "What the hell is that?" I had no idea what that was, and I had always been like gotten the leads in plays and stuff like that in school, and had done all that. But I grew up in Oklahoma and Texas. It wasn't very realistic to think beyond that, you know, beyond plays or whatever. And so I never thought about it as a career. And we went and met this David Payne guy, and he you know, just signed us up, and we started, you know, doing some acting classes and stuff like that. And then he luckily had a connection to Hollywood through Sherry Rhodes, who cast Mississippi Burning, and the very first movie that my brother got, because I forced him to go on the audition, was a movie called The Man in the Moon, which was Reese Witherspoon's first movie when she was 13. And David Payne, our acting coach, whatever, assisted Sherry Rhodes while she cast the movie. And so that was kind of our opportunity to audition for it. But you know, it was one of those things. We showed up in Dallas, and it was a cattle call. There were like 500 dudes there, and my brother was the only one that didn't want to be there. He was just like, he had no interest. We were all like, when we actors, and my brother sitting over the corner like, what the hell am I here for? Like, and then he got the role, because like clearly that's what they were looking for.
Right.
But so I would say I got in because I forced my brother to go on an audition, and he got the part.
Well, you know, there's different ways to get in. So,
yep.
Sven,
I strong-armed my way in. That's the long and short.
Yeah, you know, I will not call myself an actor. I'm probably a stuntman who can say "ouch" the proper way when he falls off the horse or somebody hurts him. But out of Denmark, I've worked for you know, John Milius twice, and when I was 40 years old, I had started a lot of sports federations in Denmark, the Danish Powerlifting Federation, the Danish Bodybuilding Federation, and the Danish Karate Federation. I'm fifth dan in Shotokan Karate. So at 40 years old, I decided to go to California to try to seek new adventures. And I didn't know anybody in California. So I called up Arnold, my friend Arnold, from the Conan days. And he was shooting a picture in Griffith Park called Commando. So I went up there, and a month earlier, I was in those days 320 pounds. I had just made the world record in bench press for masters. So when Joel Silver, the producer, saw me, he offered me a job in Commando. He said, "I'll give you $30,000 if you could run around in my picture and, you know, pretend to be a military guy, and you have to be a member of Screen Actors Guild. You need a social security number." So I went to Screen Actors Guild, proving I worked on 3 American pictures, the Conan pictures, out of Denmark, and I became a member of Screen Actors Guild. And recently, here, a few years ago, I wrote a book called Strong Man in Hollywood, and I realized in the 30 years I've been in Hollywood, from 40 years old, I've done 160 pictures. And
Wow.
I never felt I was acting out. I felt, you know, I had to play cowboy and Indians, I'll be with the boys. We have fun. We can play poker and make some jokes and stuff.
That's all
And
still
they pay me
acting.
for it. Yeah, I never felt one day in those 30 years in Hollywood that I've worked. It was all fun, being with the boys, having fun. So John Milius actually opened that door for me in those days where I went to California for some martial art world championships stuff, and I met John because Arnold was supposed to do Conan, and he asked for a good Viking name. I came up with Thorgrim, and later on he took me to Spain to work there. So I can actually thank John Milius for being in the business for so many years, and one of the very few persons that have been working all those 30 years. I came to California, 40 years old. I want to retire. I want to lay on the beach, just having fun. But then I started working, and it was non-stop work. So I did so much work, but I never felt one day I was working. I said, Jesus Christ, they're paying me for playing cowboy
That's
instruments.
awesome. Look at that.
Way to make Arnold look small.
Good
Yeah,
God. I didn't even realize how much, you're like much taller than him, huh? Wow.
Yeah, but he's a good student. He's a good student.
I think everybody watching this was just like, oh, yeah, my friend Arnold.
Yeah.
Just let me
Yeah.
casually call my friend Arnold.
So I used to say about that I believe that every 1,000 years there's one person that's been born who have a higher purpose, and Arnold is one of them. He's a great motivator. He's the best friend you can have. When he do a movie, the whole crew and cast love Arnold because he pays attention to everybody.
That's wonderful.
He's a team player, and he always used to thank people around him for being behind his success. And then also he's the master of, power sleeping. He can be in the car, sleep for 10 minutes, and then he's ready to go. He's always full of energy, full of compliments, full of helping, reaching out, to the poor, to the kids and stuff. He's just a hell of a guy. A hell of a guy. He
That's
would be a
good
good sample.
wagon to be hitched to there, buddy.
Absolutely.
For a lot of actors out there who become very self-indulgent and talk about themselves, me all the time. But he really gives back. He always talked about how America really stood behind him and helped him, and now he's using his time to give back. He's a hell of a guy.
Great. All right. So before we wrap up, what do you have to say to the folks watching at home? All these Mallrats fans that have tuned in today and will be watching in the future. What final words do you have for our fans today?
I want to tell him to harass Kevin Smith until we make him Mallrats too. Just keep harassing the hell out of him. Just don't let him sleep day and night. I don't think it's Kevin's ultimate. I think he would have made it a long time ago. Whoever wants to produce this thing, tell them, make this movie.
And here's a way that how it is. The fans know that there's a Clerks 3, which we wrapped up about 5 weeks ago coming. That's Kevin Smith's next film. The best thing to do is when it comes out next year, end of spring, beginning of summer, I've been told, is to go see it in theaters and bring 10 friends. Because here's the thing. Hollywood doesn't see, oh, I like the idea of Mallrats 2. Hollywood goes, well, what was the last thing this guy made that made money? And that's all they care about. They could care less if we were telling the story of the cure for cancer. They just
how much money did Mallrats make at the movies the first time?
I forget. Enough that it DVD. Whoever owns the DVD sale right is the one that's making the.
That's when it did well. Exactly right. But the theater, as far as the big ticket,
go see Clerks 3 because then they go, look, Kevin Smith films are bankable. We'll totally greenlight Mallrats 2. So that's the best way to get Mallrats 2 made. So I charge it to you, great GalaxyCon fans out there. Go out there, take your friends, make a party of it, see it a few times, have a couple herbal drinks or whatever, you're into, and then see it again because you're going to forget about it, and then see it again. So that's the way to do it. That's what I'm going to leave my.
That's the advice I'm giving from now on too, Brian. Thank you. That's a perfect answer.
Sven, any last words for our fans watching at home?
Yeah, I would just say one thing. Believe in yourself. You can do whatever you like. Don't listen to people around you who tell you you cannot do that. My best friend, your best friend, is your discipline. With discipline, you can do anything in life. It's like pushing small pebbles up the mountain, and one day, one of those small pebbles will go on the other side of the mountain. So keep pushing, keep pumping, and believe in yourself. Okay? Discipline is your best friend.
Great words to end it with. Absolutely. Guys, I just want to say it has been my pleasure to host for you today. Thank you for joining us on this virtual GalaxyCon stage. Hopefully we can do a real GalaxyCon stage sometime in the future. And thank you to everybody watching at home, wherever you are. Thank you for all those great questions. Everyone in our chats and everyone else, please, keep supporting GalaxyCon, and hope to see you guys again soon. Until then, be safe.